YouTube. This is Lang's Outdoor Adventures coming to you to do a unboxing video, of course, of the Hornady BMG press. The kit here also includes the dies. This, of course, is designed for loading the 50 caliber BMG, which is used a lot in the single shot, long range, 1,000-yard shots, longer than that. Of course, there's semi-autos of it, most famous in the Barrett line of rifles. And, well, there's a full auto too. Get you a Ma Deuce if you want to. But I got this because I plan on getting a rifle here in a couple of months, here in the spring. It will be of the single shot variety though. But I was looking for something to load on, and I got a relatively decent deal on this. These run about $600, depending on where you get them. That's pretty much the going rate. If you can find it, they go $600 to $700. Midway has, I think they had one or two left for about $588 was the cheapest price I saw. But I want to do an unboxing video because as I was looking for information about this press, I couldn't find a whole lot of information on the mechanics of it. Now I could find people saying, well, you know, it's a sturdy press, it's a good press, it's heavy duty, it's got a lot of leverage and things like that. And yeah, we know that. I wanted to learn more along the lines of how does it kick the primers out? How does it work? You know, what's different about it than others? And for BMG presses, you can get Hornady has one, of course, right here in front of us. There's an RCBS, which is comparable. They run about the same price, I think. Lee makes one. It's a little different, and we'll show some of the differences there and the reason I went with the Hornady here in just a moment. But those are the three main ones, and of course you've got custom stuff. You can look at more of the lesser known stuff that you get into once you get into the 50 caliber scene. But here is the press, and it is sturdy. It is heavy duty. It is much different than your typical single stage press or anything of that sort. Of course, progressive presses are a little bit different altogether, but as far as you know, single stage press to this thing, it is just so heavy, so thick, so massive. It's hard to put into words until you really see it. And this edition, of course, also came with reloading dies for the 50 BMG. So we've got this box of accessories, the press, the ram dies, and some stickers here. And basic information telling you how to set up your dies, which is important, especially if you've never done that before. But the 50 caliber setup is pretty much the same. It's just a much larger scale. They take much more powder. Over 200 grains of powder is typical. 220, 230, 230 grains, shooting 650 to 900 grain bullets. I mean, it is big, right, in every sense of the word. And I like this one better than the Lee because the opening is bigger here. I think, I didn't measure it exactly, but the opening here is about 7 inches, so there's plenty of room to get your cartridge out, or relatively enough room, shall we say, to get it out, because the BMG full-length cartridge will go 5.5 inches or longer if you're loading out to the lands, perhaps on your single shots, but a typical loaded length is about 5.4 inches, 5.5 inches. So that's something to think about. And the Lee didn't have quite as much room here, so you kind of had to push the cedar up a little bit and angle the cartridge out, and I didn't want to deal with that. That wasn't the only reason, but that was one of them. And you have 3 mounting spots here on this press. You got a hole there, an opening here, and an opening here. And you're going to need a really hefty table or you know, bench, desk, whatever you're putting your press on. You're going to need a big one, and it's going to need to have a lot of weight to it, and you're going to need to be able to put a lot of pressure on the press and leverage so that stuff doesn't break, and meaning your bench and things like that. So that is the basic of the press, but come back to some of it here in a moment. Here's the bullet cedar die for the 50. Now, that's one thing, and we're looking at it, we're like, well, it looks like fit the press good, yeah, that's so, you know, it looks like a reloading die, but just so we understand how big, I about fell over the first time I saw this comparison. Here's a sizing die for a 357 Magnum, 38, whatever you want to size with it. So that's 38 caliber sizer from Lee, and this is a standard size die that we would load 223, 308, just about anything else you can imagine. Now some of the rifle ones will be longer, but they'll be the same diameters as 7/8 of an inch. This is 1.5 inches, and you know, so as we see the difference there of the dies, it's really impressive to see how big that is. It's actually the same size as the stem of the cedar there on the 50 caliber die, but you know, so these are 1.5 inches by 12 thread pitch, and these are 7/8 by 14, I think. So there's a little different. The Lee was 1.25 inches versus 1.5 inches. So that's a difference where I would rather have, and most BMG stuff is 1.5 inches, like Hornady, RCBS, I think CH4D, M2 Precision, you know, on and on we go, where the dies are going to be 1.5 inches. That's more standard. I'm not sure exactly why Lee went with 1.25 inches. Maybe that's best to fit their press to make it work for the cheapest amount of money. I'm not sure. But anyway, the dies are massively different, right? But what's interesting is you can make this work in this press. So this press will load anything from 17 Remington up to a 50 BMG. It's amazing. You know, you can load 223, 556, 308, you know, 243, 338s, you know, 458s, 500 Smith & Wesson, of course. Anything you can imagine, you can load on this up to the BMG, which is about as big as it gets. And one of the ways you're able to do that is with this adapter that comes in this kit. This adapter, typically, you know, you would just screw your 50 caliber die in right there. But it comes with an adapter that just screws in there, and then a Hornady lock and load bushing fits in there and locks in, and then your 7/8 die for just about any cartridge that we would typically reload fits in there perfectly. So, and then you can load just about any cartridge on here. That's really a nice feature of this press, which you know, I think a lot of people overlook it for that design, unless you just have one because you have a 50. Then you're like, oh wow, I can use it for this and that, and you know. But I wonder if people maybe should look at it, even if they're not loading 450. Has very strong, obviously. You do need one other thing to be able to reload what I would describe as normal cartridges, and for instance here a 38, 357. You need a shell holder adapter, which it does not come with that. I'm really not sure why, but it would be nice if it did. But you can get those from Midway for like $30, which I plan on ordering one this coming week. And Graphs has them, I saw also. So they're out there, they're available. You know, call Hornady if you need to. Here's the shell holder for the 50, which is in a lock and load bushing. So it just slides in there, locks in, and you're set. So, and that's for the 50. So I would imagine the adapter uses this lock and load bushing somehow or another to make it work. And other parts within this box, this little red box here, and just stuff for priming the BMG, which uses a totally different primer if you're not familiar with that, than large rifle or anything like that. Uses BMG primers. Everything's different. Here's the lock ring for that die. There's a lock ring for the smaller dies, so quite different. These run, I think, close to $20 a piece if you need them for some reason. Almancha and bolt here. This goes on the bottom of your ram here. You just do that. The machining's not too bad at all on this. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Nothing to complain about, really. Okay, and one of the things I really wanted to know, but I could not find out, is how does the de-priming system work? Well, when we have and when we have our size die in here, which is this, we'll use our little one here. We put our casing in there, we pull it down and resize it. Where does the old primer go? I wanted to know that because I previously, 20 years ago when I first got into reloading, had a Hornady single stage, and it had a little elbow arm to kick the primers into the cup. It worked fabulous. Well, my brother and I bought that together, and we went separate geographic ways. So he kept the press, and then I bought another one. But I bought an RCBS rock chucker kit. They're only like $250, but I just don't like it. The press itself, the rock chucker press, is very strong, but the other aspects of the kit were just horrible. The scale, I had to throw in the trash. It was so bad. I'm not totally against RCBS goods. Here is a scale, RCBS 1000 grain. This is their new one. It works great. I love it. I wish it wasn't made in China, but I do love that RCBS 1000 grain scale. Really nice. But that one that came in the kit was just terrible. It wasn't anything like the M500 or M1000 that you might buy now. It seemed to be cheaper than that. Couldn't get it to zero at all. But the press on the rock chucker, it wants to kick spent primers, old primers, all over the place. They don't want to go in their cup like they're supposed to. So I was interested to see how this one would do. I think I like this. It just goes straight down the shaft. And then there's a hole over here. So as you would get to be priming right there, sizing at that point. And then it's going to go down the hole and hopefully into the cup. We'll see if it really works. It looks like it will. It looks really good. Really nice setup there. So that's one of the things you might be thinking about on this press. How does that work? How is it supposed to do it? So that's something to think about. The priming system, de-priming. So that one is a pretty good setup as far as how that works. I have no complaints with this press. One of the interesting things I wanted to think about was that lots of discussions I see is, well, I want a sturdy press, for loading 308s or, whatever, 338s, whatever it might happen to be. I want something that doesn't flex a lot. So a lot of people will recommend one of the iron presses. Hornady has an iron press, I think, supposed to be really stout along those lines. There's a Forster coax that is recommended a lot. But I looked, and that press costs $350, and I would be really surprised if it's more sturdy, stout, firm, less flexing than this thing, which if you just get the press is about $350, and you can load even the BMG on it if you want. You do need another adapter. But all in all, it's a really good press to look at, regardless of what you're loading. And if you're loading for the BMG, then you're going to have to get one to do that, to handle that. It's a good press to do just that. You'll probably move on to something else maybe in the future, hand loading, if you get into serious accuracy and precision loading. But this is a great press to get started on. I hope this video has helped you out in some way, and hopefully you can learn something.